Chapter 20 of Stepping Heavenward by E. Prentice. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sarah Jennings. Stepping Heavenward by E. Prentice. Chapter 20. April. I have had a new lesson, which has almost broken my heart. In looking over his father's papers, Ernest found a little journal, brief in its records indeed, but we learned from it that on all those weddings and birthdays, when I fancied his austere religion made him hold aloof from our merrymaking, he was spending the time in fasting and praying for us and for our children. Oh, shall I ever learn the sweet charity that thinketh no evil, and believeth all things? What blessings may not have descended upon us and our children through those prayers? What evils may they not have warded off? Dear old father! Oh, that I could once more put my loving arms about him and bid him welcome to our home! And how gladly would I now confess to him all my unjust judgments concerning him, and entreat his forgiveness! Must life always go on thus? Must I always be erring, ignorant, and blind? How I hate this arrogant sweeping past my brother man, this utter ignoring of his hidden life! I see now that it is well for my mother that she did not come to live with me at the beginning of my married life. I should not have borne with her little peculiarities, nor have made her half so happy as I can now. I thank God that my varied disappointments and discomforts, my feeble health, my poverty, my mortifications, have done me some little good, and driven me to him 1,000 times, because I could not get along without his help. But I am not satisfied with my state in his sight. I am sure something is lacking, though I know not what it is. May. Helen is going to stay here and live with Martha. How glad, how enchanted I am! Old Mr. Underhill is getting well. I saw him today. He can talk of nothing but his illness, and of Martha's wonderful skill in nursing him, declaring that he owes his life to her. I felt a little piqued at this speech, because Ernest was very attentive to him, and no doubt did his share towards the cure. We have fitted up father's room for a nursery. Hitherto all the children have had to sleep in our room, which has been bad for them and bad for us. I have been so afraid they would keep Ernest awake if they were unwell and restless. I have secured an excellent nurse, who is as fresh and blooming as the flower whose name she bears. The children are already attached to her, and I feel that the worst of my life is now over. June. Little Ernest was taken sick on the day I wrote that. The attack was fearfully sudden and violent. He is still very, very ill. I have not forgotten that I once said I would give my children to God should he ask for them, but oh, this agony of suspense! It eats into my soul and eats it away. Oh, my little Ernest, my firstborn son, my pride, my joy, my hope, and I thought the worst of my life was over. August. We have come into the country with what God has left us, our 2 youngest children. Yes, I have tasted the bitter cup of bereavement, and drunk it down to its dregs. I gave my darling to God. I gave him, but oh, with what anguish I saw those round dimpled limbs wither and waste away, the glad smile fade forever from that beautiful face. What a fearful thing it is to be a mother! But I have given my child to God. I would not recall him if I could. I am thankful he has counted me worthy to present him so costly a gift. I cannot shed a tear, but I must find relief in writing, or I shall lose my senses. My noble, beautiful boy, my firstborn son. And to think that my delicate little Una still lives, and that death has claimed that bright, glad creature who was the sunshine of our home. But let me not forget my mercies. Let me not forget that I have a precious husband and 2 darling children, and my kind, sympathizing mother left to me. Let me not forget how many kind friends gathered about us in our sorrow. Above all, let me remember God's loving kindness and tender mercy. He has not left us to the bitterness of a grief that refuses and disdains to be comforted. We believe in him, we love him, we worship as we never did before. My dear Ernest has felt this sorrow to his heart's core, but he has not for one moment questioned the goodness or the love of our Father, in thus taking from us the child who promised to be our greatest earthly joy. Our consent to God's will has drawn us together very closely. Together we bear the yoke in our youth. Together we pray and sing praises in the very midst of our tears. I was dumb with silence because thou didst it. September. The old pain and cough have come back with the first cool nights of this month. Perhaps I am going to my darling, I do not know. I am certainly very feeble. Consenting to suffer does not annul the suffering. Such a child should not go hence without rending and tearing its way out of the heart that loved it. This world is wholly changed to me, and I walk in it like one in a dream. And dear Ernest is changed too. He says little, and is all kindness and goodness to me, but I can see here is a wound that will never be healed. I am confined to my room now with nothing to do but to think, think, think. I do not believe God has taken our child in mere displeasure, but cannot but feel that this affliction might not have been necessary if I had not so chafed and writhed and secretly repined at the way in which my home was invaded, and at our galling poverty. God has exchanged the one discipline for the other, and oh, how far more bitter is this cup. October 4th. My darling boy would have been 6 years old today. Ernest still keeps me shut up, but he rather urges my seeing a friend now and then. People say very strange things in the way of consolation. I begin to think that a tender clasp of the hand is about all one can give to the afflicted. One says I must not grieve, because my child is better off in heaven. Yes, he is better off, I know it, I feel it, but I miss him none the less. Others say he might have grown up to be a bad man and broken my heart. Perhaps he might, but I cannot make myself believe that likely. One lady asked me if this affliction was not a rebuke of my idolatry of my darling, and another if I had not been in a cold worldly state, needing this severe blow on that account. But I find no consolation or support in the remarks. My comfort is in my perfect faith in the goodness and love of my Father, my certainty that he had a reason in thus afflicting me, that I should admire and adore if I knew what it was. And in the midst of my sorrow I have had and do have a delight in him hitherto unknown, so that sometimes this room in which I am a prisoner seems like the very gate of heaven. May. A long winter in my room, and all sorts of painful remedies and appliances and deprivations, and now I am getting well and drive out every day. Martha sends her carriage, and mother goes with me. Dear mother, how nearly perfect she is! I never saw a sweeter face, nor ever heard sweeter expressions of faith in God and love to all about her than hers. She has been my tower of strength all through these weary months, and she has shared my sorrow and made it her own. I can see that dear Ernest's affliction and this prolonged anxiety about me have been a heavenly benediction to him. I am sure that every mother whose sick child he visits will have a sympathy he could not have given while all our own little ones were alive and well. I thank God that he has thus increased my dear husband's usefulness, as I think that he has mine also. How tenderly I already feel towards all suffering children, and how easy it will be now to be patient with them. July 12th. It is a year ago this day that the brightest sunshine faded out of our lives, and our beautiful boy was taken from us. I have been tempted to spend this anniversary in bitter tears and lamentations, for oh, this sorrow is not healed by time. I feel it more and more, but I begged God when I first awoke this morning not to let me so dishonour and grieve him. I may suffer, I must suffer, he means it, he wills it, but let it be without repining, without gloomy despondency. The world is full of sorrow. It is not I alone who taste its bitter draughts, nor have I the only right to a sad countenance. Oh, for patience to bear on, cost what it may. Cheerfully and gratefully I lay myself and all that I am or own at the feet of him who redeemed me with his precious blood, engaging to follow him, bearing the cross he lays upon me. This is the least I can do, and I do it while my heart lies broken and bleeding at his feet. My dear little Una has improved somewhat in health, but I am never free from anxiety about her. She is my milk-white lamb, my dove, my fragrant flower. One cannot look in her pure face without a sense of peace and rest. She is the sentinel who voluntarily guards my door when I am engaged at my devotions. She is my little comforter when I am sad, my companion and friend at all times. I talk to her of Christ, and have always done, just as I think of him, and as if I expected sympathy from her in my love to him. It was the same with my darling Ernest. If I required a little self-denial, I said cheerfully, "This is hard, but doing it for our best friend sweetens it," and their alacrity was pleasant to see. Ernest threw his whole soul into whatever he did, and sometimes when engaged in play would hesitate a little when directed to do something else, such as carrying a message for me and the like. But if I said, "If you do this cheerfully and pleasantly, my darling, you do it for Jesus, and that will make him smile upon you,"